What could be more befitting a Unitarian Universalist church than to take the lead in honoring those who have suffered and died in the service of social and economic justice? We hope this little memorial service to just a few of the tens of thousands who have suffered and died to make the world a better place may serve as a guide and the beginning of an annual event that may even have to be extended to a long weekend celebration just because there's so many people to honor. It is right we honor our soldiers on Memorial Day, but it has been a great oversight not to honor those who have sacrificed so much to advance the cause of freedom and democracy at home via their activism on behalf of social and economic justice. So allow me to introduce Roberta Crawford Morency.
I light this candle to honor the memory of Viola Liuzzo, a Unitarian who participated in the civil rights struggle in the South. She was killed on March 25, 1965, outside Selma, Alabama, by a group of 4 Ku Klux Klansmen who shot her as she was driving her car. One Klansman was an FBI informant. He testified against the other 3. All were exonerated by juries, but all were convicted under federal use of the 1861 Ku Klux Klan Act and were sentenced to 10 years in prison.
Just like that. And now, Reverend C.J. McGregor.
I light this candle to honor the memory of Reverend James Reeb, a Unitarian Universalist minister from Boston who put the theory of social justice and action and was brutally beaten by a white segregationist mob and later died of his injuries. While initially a Presbyterian, Reverend Reeb was drawn to Unitarian Universalism not just theologically, but because of its commitment to social and economic justice. 3 people were indicted for Reeb's murder, but all were acquitted.
I give you Paul Coleman.
I light a candle to honor Tim DeChristopher, himself a Unitarian Universalist, founder of the environmental activist group Peaceful Uprising. His personal actions to draw public notice to the oil and gas lease auction resulted in his imprisonment. Even though court subsequently intervened, he remained in prison till only a few months ago. For his courage, I honor Tim DeChristopher.
I would like to show how we might expand this by honoring 2 of many black civil rights workers that have been honored at the Civil Rights Memorial in Birmingham, Alabama. So I light this candle to represent several people. The Reverend George Lee was one of the first black people registered to vote in Humphreys County, used his pulpit and his printing press to urge others to vote. While white officials offered Lee protection on the condition he end his voter registration efforts, but Lee refused and was murdered. Lamar Smith was shot dead on the courthouse lawn by a white man in broad daylight while dozens of people watched. The killer was never indicted because no one would admit they saw a white man shoot a black man. Smith had organized blacks to vote in recent elections. I would light another candle on behalf of the physicians and clinic workers who were murdered by anti-abortion zealots. And this congregation is familiar with Harriet Glassner's work. in providing legal, safe abortions. Dr. Gunn, Pensacola, Florida. Dr. John Britton and clinical escort James Barrett, also in Pensacola. Shannon Lowney and Leanne Nichols in Brookline, Massachusetts. Robert Sanderson, an off-duty police officer in Birmingham, Alabama. Dr. Barnett Slepian, shot in his home in Amherst, New York. And lastly, Dr. George Tiller, murdered while he ushered in his church in Wichita, Kansas. There were 17 other attempted murders. These martyrs are true martyrs in the real meaning of that word, not a word that's being misused recently, because they were unarmed, selfless, and were simply doing what they felt was the right thing, and were not making war or having bombs or guns. We could also light a candle for all the journalists killed in America and for those who have suffered exposing the truth. There's the attempted murder some time ago of Victor Russell, which many of you might remember, and the murder in his driveway in Denver of Alan Berg by white supremacists. At least 39 journalists have been killed in the USA as a direct result of their investigations. We need to honor them, and in an actual service, instead of this sort of template service, we would name them all, and we would honor them in that sense. So I hope you get a little bit of an idea of what we've been trying to do here. I hope that you will find a way to join us and try to make this an annual event, not only in this church, but in Unitarian churches all over the country. What church better equipped to do this than ours? Thank you so much.